Hey, welcome to episode 20 of It's Yabai podcast with your host Lewis.
Julio.
And John.
And today we're going to talk about that good Miles Morales Spider-Man. This one's across the Spider-Verse, right?
Can we make the titles a little bit like less confusing? Because personally, if you ask me which Spider-Verse movie, I'm gonna say 1, 2, or when it comes out 3. I'm never gonna tell you the actual title.
There's a third Spider-Verse movie.
I feel like that is tough when like they have the same name, they have the same wording in them, into, across, and beyond. It's weird.
No, yeah, I mean it makes sense when you say it like that. Into, across, beyond makes perfect sense. But then I'm gonna be over here like, yeah, the one. Let's be honest.
But the thing is, it's a small word in between the entire title. It's like Miles Morales into Spider-Verse, right? Miles Morales across Spider-Verse. You feel me?
Yeah, the thing is, there's so much content in each movie that at some point it's gonna get mixed up, and it's gonna be like, you don't remember when Miles's mom was doing it in the second movie? It's like, no, that was the first movie. It's like, oh shit, you know?
Oh, shit,
It's like that's what it's gonna be eventually. So
now that we shit talk the title.
Yeah, this movie was amazing. Like
God
it
tier.
was
Fucking
like
amazing.
personally, I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10 in the regular movie scale. Not in the Logan scale. In the Logan scale, it will receive an 8 out of 10, right? Which is a very high score on the
That
Logan.
is
You know, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I'll give it an 8 out of 10 on the Logan scale because I also have words. Now that I'm thinking about the movie, I have words.
Well, let's start. Let's start from the
But no,
beginning.
the movie's still a 10 out of 10, but on the Logan scale.
Yeah. On the Logan scale, it's an 8 out of 10. I don't want to give it a 10 out of 10 on the Logan scale because I mean, you know, that is reserved. I feel like at some point, if something hits the Logan scale at 10 out of 10, at that point it should have its own scale. You know what I mean?
At that point, it doesn't become the Logan scale anymore.
No, yeah, exactly. That's the dangers of it. You know, you got to be really careful with that. So let's start off at the beginning, right? And by the way, this whole podcast, if you haven't seen the fucking movie, spoilers galore. All right, so I don't want to hear no motherfucking. I don't want to hear no
movie. Watch it right now.
Yeah, I don't want to hear no motherfucking complaining. All right,
I'll throw it in the title to her. But realistically, you're watching a video on YouTube about a movie. It's more than 10 minutes, so you figure yourself out.
Listen to this. Listen, because this actually upsets me. I have a huge pet peeve about these motherfuckers in comment sections. Always be like, spoilers, bro. If you don't have prior warning and the very first frame of the video is a spoiler, you know what? You are completely justified in saying like, oh wow, complaining, right? But if it's a 10-minute video and the spoiler is in minute 9, shut up. All right? You watched so much of the video, you should have fucking seen it coming. But luckily, we didn't like lead with that. But obviously, it's gonna be an hour plus long video probably since it's a fucking podcast. You should expect spoilers, especially when we're gonna be mainly talking about the movie. But anyways, we're gonna start at the very beginning. At the very beginning, we lead with Gwen. Is her last name Stacy as well?
Yes.
In this, it's Stacy and everything. It's Stacy and everything, right? All right, cool.
Stacey, yeah.
So we lead with Gwen Stacy, and at the very beginning, she is depressed. We actually get to see what happened to the actually get to see what happened to the Peter and her universe. She killed that motherfucker. All right, I don't give a fuck what nobody says. She don't kill them.
No. They did some stuff in this movie where they made it PG, but in her story, she went ham. Because like it was a hard fought battle. It was like basically like Peter's equivalent of fighting like Venom. She had to like go off and like she went hard. In the movie, it doesn't show it that much, but she went hard.
Right. So
in the movie, it's pretty sanitized. It's like she I mean, pretty much she just like knocked over some boulders and they killed Peter.
Can we talk about how funny it is that Flash was still Peter's bully, even though Peter wasn't Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Like that stayed consistent. It's just not now Peter's girlfriend.
Every reality, you get your shit rocked.
That's a canon event.
I really don't. Not in the Tom Holland universe, Marvel, because that Flash is garbage.
I hate him.
That Flash is booty butt. All right, but basically she did kill Peter, and which, by the way, with the way that things were being introduced at first, I wasn't sure if the police captain was Peter's dad or hers.
At first, they had a very close relationship in the comic books because Peter still didn't have Uncle Ben. So he was friends with the Stacys because they were like neighbors or something. And then from there, like, you know, he kind of saw him as a father figure, you know, being a cop. He wanted to be a cop until Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider became a thing. And then he was like, oh, damn, I wish I was a superhero, you know?
Right. It became super weird because I was like, why is Peter's dad? Oh, wow, she killed Peter, and now Peter's dad is gonna take revenge. This is metal as fuck, you know. But no, it wasn't her dad. So I was like, oh shit, that's crazy. And then basically he pulls up when Peter passes, sees Spider-Gwen, and he's like, wow, you're a piece of shit. You just killed like my daughter's boyfriend, super fucked up. And then there's basically that whole dynamic throughout the entire movie up towards the end. But at the very beginning, he's like, "Fuck Spider Gwen." He's in his J Jonah bag, to be honest. He's like, "Fuck Spider Gwen, absolute menace to society," right? And she is like, "Oh, maybe she's not that bad. Perhaps, maybe like I don't know, maybe because she doesn't want to hate her, which is basically what's happening. Her dad absolutely fucking hates her without even knowing that, and." Also, something else that I completely skipped over is like she's depressed ever since like she doesn't have Miles in her life anymore. That Morales D, you feel me? She just doesn't. She's just not feeling it. Her band. She's leaving her band. Yeah, she's just not it, right? And what happens after that? So the whole thing
So
with Peter,
after that, we get to see like we see basically her life, which another funny little Easter egg. If you didn't know, the name of the band that she was playing with was called the Mary Janes because in that universe they don't actually have Mary Jane. Um,
Oh, that's funny. I did not notice that. I did not notice that.
So we go from her like showing off like how she's dealing with the fact that she is still depressed because in her universe she has zero friends besides the people she plays in the band with, and even then, as you see, she's a bitch to him. So then she goes on to
Yeah.
go be her Spider Girl in her universe, which is like Ghost Spider, which W name. But from there, then she gets called to like a disturbance, which
Actually,
is
before you go on further, I wanted to address this. We think it's pretty fucked up, and it's part of the reason why I'm not too big of a fan of her character. It's like she goes out of her way to be an asshole to her bandmates and her quote unquote like potential friends, but that's not what Peter or even Miles in a lot of cases usually does. It's usually more of like you're the outcast nerd that nobody wants to hang out with. With her, it's kind of like she pushes everybody away.
Oh, she hard ever since Peter. I think Peter dying was definitely like her catalyst of her just becoming addicted the entire time.
For sure, but then my argument is, hey, Peter lost Uncle Ben in his universes, and he didn't automatically turn into a piece of shit to everybody around him. You know what I mean?
That's very
like,
true.
So it's not really an excuse for her to just go out of her way to like. She was literally when she was playing in the band, she was talking that good shit after they finished playing. I was like, bro, why? Like these people, obviously, you're literally pushing them away. And even afterwards, there was that one girl who was like, hey, I play drums too. Type beat. It's like we don't need this bitch, which completely justified. It's like this girl treats you like shit 24/7. Like what's the point, right?
mm-hmm.
There's also that factor which is like she's young, right? Had a traumatic experience. Not everybody's gonna react the same way, so I understand that aspect of it, right? Still, though, rubbed me personally the wrong way because it's kind of like, come on now. There's people trying to like be there for you and just being like, even towards her dad, right? It's kind of like, hey man, like your dad's literally like your only parent in that scenario, and he's trying his best. Yeah, he's a cop. He has a like a pretty blind sense of justice. Let's be honest, but.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's kind of like, hey, maybe treat the people around you a little bit better because at the end of the day, like that's all you have. I mean, yeah, in your Spider-Gwen character, everybody wants your ass dead, basically. So, what's going on?
Her dad,
Something
I'd
worth
say is
mentioning.
forgiven because, like,
Down the
from his
line,
perspective, from his perspective, right? My daughter's boyfriend's or my daughter's best friend was murdered by this like vigilante character, and this vigilante character does not give a fuck because in just his mind, she just didn't care, right?
Right.
So. Like he's trying to be like, hey, I'm trying to support you. I'm trying to do all this stuff. Don't you see I'm going after your best friend's killer? Because it would be a real dick move if he was a cop Spider Gwen was an actual separate person, and then Gwen Stacy just loses Peter, and then he's just like, oh, okay, next, you know?
Right. Right, it would be real weird, but like I don't really blame the dad for his blind sense of justice. I think that's somewhat justified. I mainly blame her for making things so much harder on herself because with what we see towards the end, like it's pretty obvious. I mean, it's always difficult for the spider like verse in general to like reveal their identity to their loved ones, but with her, I feel like if she revealed it earlier and actually like maybe like try to like explain that shit. I mean, he's not gonna put her in jail, right? I don't think so. I mean,
trying
I feel
to
like in general, it's just always like an easier to be like, yeah, by the way, I'm Superman, I'm Batman, this, all that
right.
shit. Instead of just having this whole secret identity from the people that you care about. Like in every Spider-Man thing, they're always like, oh, but I have to protect my loved ones, and if they find out, then like, they'll be whatever to people. What if they just don't tell anybody?
mob someone somehow.
Yeah.
They don't really describe how they get hurt. Just like it'll hurt those around me.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's kind of tone deaf in a sense from the characters because they're like, oh, this is how I think they'll react because it's based on their insecurities as opposed to like the reality, which is that like a lot of these parental figures would just keep that a fucking secret, like straight up, like either keep it a secret or just like even give them advice, which would help a lot of these characters a lot because they need therapy a lot of the time. You know what I mean? So like it's like at least having that person there, which is like what is low-key annoying that like they usually have that person that wants to help but they're not allowed to, right? And it's pretty
They're not
annoying
given
in that.
that opportunity.
And then when they are, it's too late. They end up dying right there and then, you know. And then which then makes it so these characters are like, you know what? See, I
Justified.
fucking told you. Yeah, they're like, I told you. Look, the moment they found out they got killed, and it's kind of like, no, it's just your timing was ass, and it's ass every time, you know.
No, you know the best part? Halftime, they know, like, because they were really bad at hiding it the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, imagínate, dude. How most Spider-Men start off at like 15, 16. How good is a 15 or a 16-year-old at hiding a secret?
Awful.
Literally.
Awful. Like,
dude, but to be fair, Miles' parents probably think he's doing crack right now.
Yo, 1,000,000,000%, bro.
Dude,
His
because
dad is,
Miles
like,
cannot. He's the guiltiest looking fucking kid I've ever seen.
100%, bro. He look like you look at Miles. He doesn't even look okay. If you look at the version of Miles that we see at the end of the movie, you're like, yeah, no, that motherfucker is like selling dope, like running, like
No.
clapping gangs and shit. But like this version of Miles, to me at least, looks like an innocent kid. It's just I think it's a product of where he's raised. That his parents are like, this guy he has all these bad influences around
Also,
him.
remember his Uncle Aaron was a thing at some point, so you never know how much or of what Uncle Aaron was actually doing affected him.
1,000,000,000%. Yeah, you know his uncle. Yeah, 100%. Like his parents are like, bro, this guy's definitely not following down the right footsteps. It doesn't help that he's late to everything ever and leaves early everything ever, but it is what it is. Anyway, let's get back to Gwen. So you were saying that so we stopped at the point where her father. So her father found out about the whole Peter thing, and then eventually, like, bandmates, this, that, and the third. And then one police chase at night. Yeah. Or
Yeah.
something.
Then there was a call on the police thing. Her police scanner goes off, and she just goes into like Spider-Gwen mode, right? So she goes over to the thing, and that's when she goes to the art museum, and she finds the first like incursion or the first person from another universe, which was really weird. I expected it to be like a completely different thing. I thought that's where we were gonna meet Spot, right? But then we see this like Victorian England sketch drawing of the Vulture, which
my favorite fucking character design of the entire movie. Honestly.
Absolutely, L take, and I'm gonna let you defend it. Lewis. But before you defend it, I must say, even though L ass character design, huge threat.
Very big threat.
He was fucking up 3 spider characters at the same time. And Gwen isn't necessarily weak. She's pretty strong. And Miguel's Miguel. And the other bitch is pregnant. So, like, goodness gracious. Like, he was putting in work.
He was putting in the work.
He was putting in work. Anyways, let's go ahead and defend your L.
You know what? I like that his universe. It just looked cool, bro. I don't know. Because I feel like a lot of I wish we had more enemies from other universes in the movie. Because I don't feel like we had a lot of that.
Yeah,
because we get like a bunch of we got a couple different art we got a lot of different art styles for like different Spider-Men and shit, right? But like actual enemies, he's the only one that has a different art style I can think off the top of my head.
Very, very unique and very steampunky. You know what I mean? Like Victorian steampunk type shit. Like it was a pretty interesting mix. The only reason why I didn't like his character design is because like the way that it looked specifically with Gwen's version of the world in her universe,
it was very jarring, which I think was on purpose as well. Because
but I feel that was part of the meme. You know what I mean? Like it looks out of place.
It did look quite out of place, yeah.
But I think that's the point. Like he doesn't look like he belongs in that universe.
Yeah, you know what? I'll give you that.
It worked for what it was meant to do, but like it doesn't look pleasant.
Now that I'm looking at it in the picture, it's not that bad. You know what I think it is? Is that it's kind of hard to tell his details while they're moving so quickly and doing all these acrobatics. So it's difficult to say, like, is that his hand? Is that his claw? Like, what's going on there type shit, right? And then, like, and you look at the background and it's literally a water painting, you know? And it's like, fuck, I mean, shit. Which helps and doesn't all at the same time. By the way, if Miguel didn't show up when he did and an old pregnant lady over here didn't show up when he did, Gwen was dead.
No, that was a problem for Gwen.
He was
no, Gwen could not have 1v1'd him. Not
No,
even
she
close.
was struggling. She was struggling. So at which point in time he shows up, right? And she's fighting him, struggling quite a lot. He has a lot of mobility. He has some long range attacks, very
He has
sharp
powerful
tools.
attacks, bro. He Kamehameha her at some point.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I forgot about that beam he shot. I'm like, I ain't never seen Vulture do that shit. What the fuck? That shit
Shit,
was
bro. Maybe not your soft ass vulture.
You're right. You're right. You're
Oh
right.
man, Vulture looking ass.
You know, that's actually kind of crazy. Maybe in the universe where he came from, maybe he's the main villain. And
I
if
mean,
he
honestly, bro.
and if
He,
and if he's not, I mean, shit. I
His
want to know what the
Spider-Man
fuck.
has to be on some shit.
Yeah, yeah. His Spider
uh,
Man.
dude, one of my favorite things is when the Lego Spider-Man was like a big wig.
Oh yeah, dude, did you know that was actually animated by a 14-year-old?
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
Yeah, it was up
Yeah.
because there was a fan that made the entire last movie in like Legos.
No, he made a trailer.
Or he made the trailer in a Legos, right? So then they saw it and they were like, "Oh, we liked what you did, so come and do this scene." So they did that whole scene. This guy, thank you. You're one of our best. I love that
that
shit.
guy. That guy was
That was a
amazing.
good part. I like
That
that.
guy was amazing because it quickly. It's like a huge slap on the face to Miles. It's like, here you go. We even got the Lego motherfucker up in this bitch.
Bro, but Lego Spider-Man gets results. I haven't seen him take a single L.
Yeah, Miguel is difficult to impress. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He is hard to please.
He
So
hates
the
everyone.
fact, yeah, he hates everybody. So the fact that he was like, "You're one of our best," mad serious and shit, and the homie with like the most serious face of all time with a chichon on his head, bro. Look at this motherfucker, bro. Like somebody put a hat on him. You know, it's crazy. But anyways, let's go back. So Miguel shows up, and the very moment Miguel shows up, I mean, instantly fan
It's
favorite.
just
I mean,
intense. He's
yeah,
intensity.
like the way he attacks, it's like he's after your ass. There, it's just pure aggression. You know, Miguel does not give a fuck about nothing. He's deep. And then there's also the pregnant lady, which please go have your baby. Throughout
Mhm.
the entirety of the movie, I was like, can she please go have her baby? I was worried for her baby. I was like, please,
Dude,
please.
no, literally, I don't know what it was, but from the moment I saw her and I saw that she was pregnant, I was like, stop fighting, please.
Yeah, literally. She seemed very integral though. Like
She
she
was
was a
important.
she was very important. At least like making sure that everybody was situated, doing a lot of like kind of like behind the scenes stuff, finding people and shit. And even when she did have to fight, I mean, she drop kicked the fuck out of Miles.
Out of all
You
the
know,
spider people, the character that she's based off of is the one that's on most like teams, and she's like the most professional one. She's based off of this one, which this one was like a super spy before.
yeah, I remember play. Was she in
Ultimate
the,
Alliance, I believe.
she was in Ultimate Alliance, right? Because I remember playing as her at one. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, you know what I'm saying. Anyways, yeah, so she shows up, Miguel shows up, they manage to capture the vulture. They struggle quite a lot. I mean, Gwen ends up kind of rallying and helping overall, but that's not even the worst part. You know what I'm saying? The worst part is when Gwen's daddy shows up, right? And they kind of have like a little bit of a standstill. Or does that happen later on? Is
That
there a scene?
happens. That happens after they,
Right,
because it was after they captured the vulture. Then Jessica Drew's like telling Miguel, "Hey, we should add her to the team," and he's like,
right,
"I don't want to add shit to the team. Fuck you," you know.
And
right.
he's not.
Which, to be fair, I mean, it is what it is. Miguel already had like 85 spider motherfuckers to have to deal with, so you know, completely justified in that sense. Um, but her dad shows up. And
Mhm.
when her dad shows up, there's this whole scene which was I and liked her world, except like sometimes sometimes it felt like the animations shifted way too much. But this scene was beautiful because you show her and like she has more like lighter colors, and you show her dad and it's like dark blue, right?
No,
Where
no.
it has
Every time the dad shows up, his art style changes completely, and
yeah,
honestly,
yeah,
one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Just like whoever had to animate that was like, I'm gonna go crazy.
yeah,
And that's where I have my take where I really loved Gwen's world, right? Like the way that everything was just like laid out to bear where like the characters' thoughts are just changing everything constantly and like the colors are changing constantly just because of the way the characters like thinking at that time. I loved it so much. It was like an acid trip and I was enjoying it so much. Like there were also points in like the action where like instead of even though it should be 3D, it turns into like a 2D like cutout painting kind of like ish for a second, which
right.
I found really good.
I liked her world a lot too, but my favorite scenes with her world were kind of like where we get kind of that still frame of like the character, and then like you said before, right? Their emotion is being portrayed by the artwork. So like her dad feeling sad, angry, disappointed, all these negative emotions being portrayed as blue, and hers usually just being a mix of basically everything with the purple and red, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like just
Mhm.
like the heavy purple sometimes with some blue hues as well, showing that she's not completely fine, and instead, but she deals with it in her own way, right? And then you have scenes where like she's just straight up blue, like she's blue, the background is purple, and
Mhm.
it's crazy. So I don't mind those type of scenes, but my favorite ones were like, for example, when she showed up on the police chase right before she fought the vulture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like she shows up and she's on top of a building, and you see like the landscape, and it's all kind of purple-ish, and it's all beautifully drawn, and there's like no shifting water painting, dripping colors like that, which is kind of like what I felt was kind of overwhelming later on. Which I like her world a lot. I thought it was super unique. I thought it was amazing. I just felt like sometimes it was too strong for my liking, but I really enjoyed it. I really did. I thought it was really cool. But so then she has her whole scene with her dad. Her dad points the gun at her, which I was like, is she gonna shoot him?
That
I
part
mean,
was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
it's
That was
yeah, it was
intense.
crazy, but I like it because it's like, first of all, that bullet didn't do nothing to nobody. Let's calm down, right?
Nah.
But at the same time, it's kind of like it's a super intense scene because it's like from his perspective, he's pointing that gun at Peter's killer, right? The killer
Mm-hmm.
of her daughter's boyfriend. But from her perspective, that's her dad pointing a gun at her. That's crazy as fuck.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which, by the way, this is 10 minutes into the movie, and this is
Oh, this is how the
already
movie starts, bro.
really
Yeah.
intense. Like, the intensity of this scene, even though, like, Gwen Stacy was a character in the last movie, and, like, yeah, you recognize her and all that stuff, they did an insanely good job to just show you this character that you were, like, whatever about, for the most part, and just make such an intense moment.
So
agreed.
genuinely great pacing.
At the very beginning, first 10 minutes had great pacing, and I also felt like it kind of, I wouldn't say it justified it, but it explained to you why in the first movie she was basically that sarcastic, very pessimistic type of character, where it's kind of like everything that happens, she's looking at it like the glass is half empty instead of half full type shit, right? And it's kind of like, yeah, her world, this is what her world is like. She's basically depressed. I mean, let's be honest. And
No, she's having like the worst time.
right, so it makes a lot of sense from that perspective. It would be interesting to see, like, do they ever mention like them seeing other universes worlds differently, and like talking about it's like, damn, this world looks a lot different from mine type shit, right? Or like, do they just
No,
see
that
them all
I
the
don't, I
They,
don't think.
I
You
think,
know what, Polka Dot Man or Spot, I guess he says that once or twice. Like, oh, this looks way different.
right?
I think that's
That's it.
mainly like them already giving into the fact that everything's gonna look crazy to them. So they're just
Yeah,
like, yeah, okay, your art style is just like how your universe works, you know?
right, 100%. Um, so what happens after this, right? So
After
like,
that, she's given the wristwatch, and then we jump over to Miles.
exactly. So the moment we jump over to Miles, the movie's pacing transitions from fairly good to, I wouldn't say bad, but just a lot slower, right? Transitions into a lot slower of a pace,
It's substantially slower, I
You know
would
like
what
a
I
say.
think?
lot
You know what I
slower.
think happened mainly? I think
Yeah.
we had such a like a quick series of events and such intensity that it felt like so much that now when you give us this like chilled out atmosphere, it feels like nothing's happening for so long, even though it's probably probably the same amount of time.
It had bursts though. It had bursts of like, it started off with slow pacing, and then like, for example, when Spot would show up, when Miles was fighting Spot and the little chase down scene, it like went, the pacing went super fast, and then it
Mm.
slowed down again, and it felt a little bit jerky to me anyway
Mm.
because
Yeah,
of
but
that.
none of it was actually intense. It was, if anything, the only like when it felt like, oh, things are getting serious is like when he has to be somewhere, and it's like realistically like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever.
Right.
Someone needs to get to class. That's it.
Yeah.
Right, but like like the scenes with his family felt very slow, and I don't mind it because it's like we get that character development, but potentially I feel like we could have had some of those scenes be a little bit shorter or place them just slightly better. Like, I don't like I wouldn't say it's a complaint necessarily. I'm basically nitpicking, but it did feel like with the Miles stuff, like going from Gwen to Miles is like everything slowed down. We went from an action anime to a slice of life, and I was like, okay, that's cool, interesting. Which I didn't expect from Miles' universe. I expected a lot more action, but it was very slice of life. It was very much like what your parents think: cookouts, fucking school. What are you gonna do with your life? Trying to balance being Spider-Man with being Miles, right? Him also being kind of depressed about not having Peter with him anymore, not having Gwen. Obviously, the person he missed the most, Spider Pig, right? Like, come on, like,
of course, of
The
course.
best.
so obviously he did have that kind of a lot of like, the vibe throughout this movie was like kind of like the sense of you have family but you still feel lonely. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so he was very much lonely. And so we get into his universe, and what's the first thing that we see? What was it, like the meeting that his parents were having
Yeah, they were
with
having a
the
meeting at the school because they were trying to go and get him into a college. They were talking to a college prepper.
right? At the same time as they were doing that, Miles was going over to where Spot was. When we were introduced to Spot, it was absolutely hilarious because it's like that Indian clerk in the store, and Spot is, you could
Spot
tell he
is
No, he
still,
was Jamaican. He was
oblong.
Jamaican.
Oh yeah, no, he
yeah.
was Jamaican. Yeah, he was Jamaican.
Oh, he was Jamaican. Oh yeah, he was Jamaican. You're
Yeah,
100%
yeah, yeah.
correct. And Spot is obviously still trying to figure out his powers. That was very evident by the fact that he was fucking everything up. Like the store
Blood
clerk,
came out of his abdomen, bro. He don't know what he's doing.
yeah, he had no idea. Like even when he pulled up to the ATM and he was trying to like put his hand inside of it, it kept coming out to the other side and shit, and it just wasn't working out whatsoever. But then Miles shows up, right? And like, I mean, Miles struggles with his powers because Spot is just super random, and his powers are really they're really busted in general. But the thing is that because Spot doesn't know what he's doing, in combination with the fact that his powers are already fucking like mad random and difficult to kind of understand, Miles was just struggling, bro. He would punch something, it would come out to the other side. It just was not working out for him. And it became a whole ass chase down scene. Also, it's revealed that, like you guys said earlier, he's not wearing a suit. That's his skin,
Yeah.
which
It's
really creepy,
uncomfortable.
really really creepy. And also his skin, like it's not even his skin, but his build. That boy got an ugly ass build. I mean, he was
Yeah.
a scientist. I don't expect him to be working out or anything, but
Nah,
I
but like the
even his
homie's still
stance,
built weird.
Get
You
the
know what I
yeah,
gym
his
mean?
away from
stance,
me.
his stance is weird, bro. Like his stance is weird. He stands up all fucking hunched over
He's
and
got a
not.
weird gait.
Yeah. He got some knock knee action going on. You know what I'm saying? Some pigeon toed action. So, but anyways, I really like his base powers before he goes into like the particle collider and all that craziness, right? Um, his base powers to me are extremely interesting, super cool. They're like a nerfed version of Obito's powers,
Mhm.
basically. Where it's kind of like you're basically punching through to like another dimension type shit, or like shifting through, or whatever the
You
fuck.
know what? I will say, if he gets good with it, it's way better than Obito's
But he
power.
did. You don't remember? You don't remember like later in the
No,
movie?
yeah, but I mean like X level, like getting you to punch yourself in the face because you hit him in the stomach type shit. You know?
Right. But here's what's interesting about him. He's extremely intelligent, right? Because he's a scientist. But he's also really, really he has a great ability. He has a great learning ability, right? Because he's like judging from when he first fought Miles throughout the entire chase, towards the end of it, he was having Miles punch himself and shit, and Miles was kind of figuring it out too. But Miles was struggling a lot more, and like that was
Mm-hmm.
over the course of like what, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you know.
Yeah.
So he was learning. He was learning. He was smooth, you know. So, but I don't know if his powers would be more busted than Obito's, because even then, it's like because Obito has the thing was like you phase through, but he also has the thing was like I touch you when it's over.
Mhm.
Like
I,
it's
you
that
know
simple.
that's true, but I think he
It
could
really
figure
depends
something
on
out
who
like
he's
that too.
fighting.
It does. He got pretty unlucky with Miles because of Spider Sense. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
Spider Sense is just one of those things. I mean, it has to be one of the most busted powers. Like it plays the game for you type of powers in the entirety of Marvel, right? Because it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, I don't know where your fist is gonna come out from, but I don't need to know because intuitively I can feel that shit, right? When there's danger. So it gave Miles a lot of different it gave him a lot of different options when it came to fighting him. And he was figuring shit out. He was throwing webs through the portals, and they were coming out and smacking him in the face. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I will say in the
But
comics,
yeah,
the spider sense doesn't work too well when Peter's fighting him because the thing is, it's an attack from Peter, so Peter's not expecting himself to hit himself. He doesn't register himself as an enemy.
right. Oh, you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
But so they're doing the chase down scene, and I think they end up at Miles' school or close to it at some point, or rather, does his dad? No, his dad leaves, right?
His dad has to leave because he had. Well, no. They end up near
No, no,
his
no. Yeah,
school,
yeah.
and then he traps him because he's able to like get his arms and legs through a portal,
Right.
so
Yeah.
that he's all trapped. Miles comes back to the college prep meeting. They have like a little chat, and then the spot escapes, and then Miles has to go back. But now his dad also knows, and he has to go back as well because the cops are called.
Right. So they have a completely different fight scene, and which is hilarious because in the whole
Hmm.
chase down, his dad was keeping up, high key.
No, yeah, that was. I think they kind of fucked that up a little bit because his
Yeah.
dad was running faster than most cars.
Yeah, like they kind of fucked up. I think in their minds they were like, let's portray Miles' dad as kind of an athletic, have him run through, jump a little bit parkour and shit.
No, he was more than athletic, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, comparatively to like Miles web swinging, which is like Spider-Man can go at like easy money, like 60 miles an hour, just web swinging, and then Spot's going through portals. So it's like, how is like a normal ass human being keeping up?
He's
Like
no
he was
different.
right there with them, you
Yeah,
know.
he
No
was
different.
moving.
He was moving 100%. So what happens at that point, right? So they end up in where do they end up? They end up like in this weird kind of like
They end up in like a warehouse of where the original Collider had exploded, like at the beginning.
They just just the ruins of the original Collider.
Yeah,
That's
the
just straight up
ruins.
there.
and I believe that's at that point where Spot starts explaining his backstory, right?
Yeah, the backstory that's been memed to hell and back.
I mean, why wouldn't it be memed? This motherfucker got smacked with a bagel and turned into a superhuman. Like, like
It
this.
be like sometimes.
Also, what's funny about his backstory is like he's not even wrong. Miles fucked his life up.
Yeah.
Miles fucked his whole life up, bro. Like that's not even his fault.
Which
So
I felt that was a pretty good like little like call to that. It's like, yo, yeah, okay, all this super shit is happening on the screen, and yeah, like these superheroes are helping people, but you do realize, right, when you throw a car at somebody, somebody has to pay for that, or when you explode a collider, there might be people around.
yeah, that's one of those things that like nobody ever talks about, which is kind of why I really love Civil War so much in the Marvel universe. They're kind of like, hey, yeah, dude, you remember that thing you did? Yeah, these are the amount of casualties, and then you have heroes having to actually come to grips with that. Like Tony's like, yeah, we're doing more harm than we're doing good sometimes. But going back to this, like it's very unfortunate, but it makes sense as to why Miles takes zero accountability for his actions when in terms of that. Yeah, he's a 15-year-old boy. He's like, I have my own problems. I threw a bagel at you. Stop crying. Like it's like,
Yeah.
but no, yeah, it literally ruined his whole life though. And I also found it funny that he kept going to work even after his transformation because it even shows a scene where his co-workers are making fun of him.
Assholes, by the way.
Yeah.
They ruined the universe.
He's basically a guy with a disability at that point. You know what I'm saying?
What a bunch of dicks. They literally bullied him until he quit his job. So it pretty messed up. They're the real villains. But at that point, he explains his story. Miles doesn't give a fuck. Miles' dad gets there. He falls off, which I was kind of scared when he fell off the thing.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh no, this is a Gwen Stacy moment. Going back to the Andrew Garfield universe. This is scary.
Didn't even skip a beat. Didn't skip a beat for a second, dude. Picked him up like it was nothing.
But like, I feel like a lot of Spider-Man movies, Spider-Man content in general, ever since then, have like kind of like hinted at that type of stuff. Anytime anybody falls off a building, like the same kind of frames from the side, and they don't show you Spider-Man. So it's like, where is he? He's gonna get here in time, type shit. I was like, bro, they're gonna do his dad like this at this early into the movie, bro? Nah, there's no way. But then they caught him, right? But he caught him, and by the way, he was still on the phone with his wife. Which, by the way, get a fucking clue, Miles' mom. Like, he's fucking busy. He's working. He's a cop. And he's literally like, come on, man. Like, there's super fucking villains in this universe. And you're out here complaining about Miles on the phone while he's on the job. He needs to concentrate. All right? Give him a break. Give him a break. But anyways, he ends up saving his dad, and Spots escapes at that point, right?
Yes.
Spots escapes, and then Miles brings his dad back up to the rooftop of the building, and they start having a conversation, which I found hilarious, right? Because his dad is like, I have this kid, and he's like talking to Spider Man like he's his homie, or like they're pretty much acquaintances at this point because they see each other all the time. But he's like talking like, bro, I have this kid, you know what I'm saying, and I don't know what he wants to do with his life, and I think he's lost. And Miles basically said, get off that boy's ass, you feel me? Get off his ass. And I'm over here like, I mean, true, but at the same time, it's like it's your dad. Obviously, he's gonna worry about you, dummy.
Yeah.
But yeah, bro. I mean, they have a nice little heartfelt conversation. Some of it is funny as well, but I felt like that would have been a. I mean, obviously, I knew they weren't gonna do it, but I felt like that would have been a good moment to basically tell, his dad is like, hey, dude, you know what, you know, it would have been a nice moment to do so,
Mm-hmm.
and like maybe one of his parents should have known, right?
That's what's
But
really interesting about Miles in the comics. Like, it takes like a little bit for a second there, but his parents find out very quickly.
which
Like,
makes
originally his comics are a lot grittier because they started off in like the Ultimate Universe. So in that one, it's just like Marvel to the max, right? Like his dad dies, then his mom dies. He's a homeless boy on the street.
that
It was crazy for a second there. And but like in this, he gets teleported back to the main universe, and then he's given both his parents, and they know he's Spider-Man and everything. He's just chilling. It's like, okay, go save the world. You're grounded. Be home by 6. You know.
bet I actually like that. It's a breath of fresh air when it comes to the Spider-Man.
Mhm.
Uh, so what happens after that? That
After
scene,
that, that's when
the cookout,
Miles no Miles goes back to like trying to be himself. Then he has to get the cake. Then the cookout. Yeah.
right? The cake, the cookout. He has a big fight with his parents at the cookout, which I found it hilarious how that DJ was trying to like fucking like drown out the fight that we're having. But
WDJ, by the way.
yeah, W DJ, he was popping off. But Miles fucks up the cake for his dad, which was pretty messed up to be honest. I mean, he could have made it there in time. He really did mess up. He's always in a hurry, but he doesn't really have to do. If he just planned a little bit better, you know.
Hmm.
But anyways, he gets there, disappoints his parents, and I think as he's moping about like being a bad son or whatever the fuck, that's when Gwen shows up.
Yeah, when he goes back to his room, he starts listening to music, trying to chill out. And for a second there, the movie kind of makes it look like Miles is just vibing and like everything around him is floating, but it's like no, everything's around him is floating because there's a giant portal from another universe coming in.
Right. So Gwen pulls up through the portal, and Miles is ecstatic to see her, and she's super happy to see him as well. But it quickly becomes apparent that she's probably not there to see him, type shit, because she's in a hurry, she's looking around and shit. But she's just happy that it's an excuse to see him, and he's just happy she's there.
Yeah.
So at that point, I think there's like a call for a villain. And who was it? Was it Ryan? No, who it was? It was a random ass villain that got kicked in the face, wasn't it? So
I
a villain
forget
got
what.
assaulted at some point.
No, I forget. They did kick a villain, but that was like her like him trying to show off what he can do as Spider Man. Like he was telling her, "Oh, I got a handle of this now."
Yeah,
And
they were basically catching up while basically solving petty crimes like fucking people stealing
yeah,
wallets and
just doing
stuff.
shit on the side. And then she like speed blitzes basically disappears for a second there, and then that's when she plants the tracer because she was actually tracking down Spot.
Right, exactly. She places down the tracer. She's tracking down Spot. At which point, she goes back to Miles, and then they have like a heartfelt conversation on top of the tower or whatever. And they're upside down, and Miles's hair is not moving because that's shit nappy. And and she is. I mean, I don't know how they don't get dizzy, but it makes sense considering all the flips they be doing. They just got used to it, bro. Imagine, can you imagine being Spider-Man and doing all those acrobatic flips, bro? Like I would literally every 2 minutes I would have to go back to the ground and be like, bro, nah, I'm too dizzy, bro. Chill out with that nonsense. Unless like the powers actually help with that somehow, and I don't know it. But
Imagine.
I mean, well, I can imagine they would because you're more aware. Part of the reason why I think you would be extremely dizzy otherwise is like you're swinging through. Maybe you do like a backflip midair, and then you have to like actually shoot the web out somewhere. But like since you're more aware of your surroundings and shit, right? Because of like your powers, maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just easier. But at the same time, I believe after that scene, she joins Miles and his parents in the following she joins Miles and his parents in the following cookout, which it looks like they have a cookout every 2 seconds, which I'm not mad
No,
at.
it's
I
the
mean,
same cookout.
it was the same cookout.
Yeah, he
Oh, okay.
Miles just dipped, and because it was a celebration for his dad becoming captain, and then it looked like they started like in the afternoon, and then it became around nighttime.
Oh, okay, fair enough. So they basically have it in the same cookout, and then he introduces them. Mom's jealous. Dad is like, "Oh wow, he has a girlfriend. That's crazy." And I think she's the one that has to go after that, and then she tries to track down Spot, and that's when she rolls up on the room, which is like where the collider was.
Mm-hmm.
And then
No, no,
Miles.
not where the collider was. Where he was making like he was fucking with like the energy that the collider had, but on a smaller scale.
Okay, yeah. And then Miles ends up following her because she's acting a little bit weird in his invisible mode, which she couldn't sense, which is kind of like, I mean, he's not like, I mean, it's Spider Sense shouldn't work in that scenario because he's just like not trying to hurt her, right? But it's kind of just crazy in general that like his invisible mode is so busted and he really underutilizes it.
Yeah, I will say that. I
And
will say that.
he pulls up, and then she's having a conversation with, I think he was having a conversation with old pregnant lady, right? And that's when Miles kind of starts figuring out what's going on. He's like, "What the fuck is going on here? This is crazy." And then she runs the scan of the room, showing what happened. And Miles finds out a lot more information than he was supposed to because she was supposed to keep him in the dark the whole time, but she did not. So then, anyways, I think that's at that point where she leaves, right?
Where she dips, yeah, she does leave, but then Miles follows her.
Yeah, so at first it looks like Miles is like, "Oh wow, heartbroken, this and that." He turns around and he jumps through the portal without thinking twice because of course he's a 15-year-old boy, he doesn't think. So he jumped through the portal, and that is where they both end up in India. I guess. They both end up in India, no? Does that's when they transition into
Yeah, into Mumbatan.
yeah. And which, by the way, I really like his suit. At first I looked at it and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, but then as I saw it like kind of him moving around and stuff, I was like, oh, wow, that's actually a pretty cool suit. I'm not mad at it. I also like the fact that
It's
he just fucking
it's way more dope than what he actually has in the comics. Cause you see this, right? This is all cool and stuff. This is actually
yeah
what he looks like.
yeah no, that's pretty lame. They just basically give him fucking
A little like
yeah
sash. So
yeah
they give you this guy, this dope ass dude.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that whatsoever. Yeah, there's definitely gonna be a lot of comic book spin-offs with that design now.
Oh, 1 billion%. They're gonna steal the fuck out of that one.
But yeah, he's super cool. When he web slings, he has like these like fucking, what do you call them,
It's like a
the thing he
trompo.
attaches to things.
I
Yeah, it's
forgot.
como un tronco, bro. It's like a
It's
fucking
like a spinning top. I don't know how the Indian spinning
yeah.
top.
That's basically what it is. And he fucking swings through, and he has a girlfriend, so good for him. And Gwen rolls up, and that's like in the middle of them swinging through and having all of this fun. That's when it's revealed that Madame Gwen Stacy um is hiding a little something here or there because she's been meeting different Spider-Mans, and he's like, and when they're swinging through and she's explaining who Miles is, he's like, oh, does he know about what is his name, Hobby?
Hobie.
Hobie? Does he know about Hobie? And he's like, Hobie, who? He's like, oh yeah, this, that, and the third. And yeah, man, that's when I was a little bit suspicious. Like, is she cucking my boy Miles, right? But later on, we find out more about him. But while that's happening and they're swinging through, what ends up happening actually? Is there a villain that
So they were swinging through. They were following Spot because she followed Spot to Moonbatten, and then Pavitzer is like explaining his whole backstory, all that shit, how he's just such a great Spider-Man, how nothing bad happens in his life, and then they're following and him. They go to Alchemax because Alchemax does have a collider that is in his world. So then
yeah.
from there, that's when they do actually meet up with Spot. Spot gets behind into the collider, and then he puts up the force field, and then Miles tries to short circuit it. That's
Right, so
and fails
so
miserably.
we're gonna have to do a two-parter because unfortunately I do have to go right now. So
Quickie little side note.
yeah,
Favorites? What top three Spider-Man right there?
I don't want to do that right now simply because I want to talk about it a lot. So let's do that next time.
Okay, for
Alrighty.
sure.
Um, but yeah, let's stop it here.
Alrighty. Ending.